Everyone wants to write more books. We either have a story inside of us that's telling us, hey, I want to be written, please write me. And sometimes we actually have about 15 million of them. And the only way we can get to all of these different projects that are clamoring for our attention is if we do the impossible, and that's write more often or write faster during the times that we do actually get to sit down and write. This was actually brought to my attention by a viewer, so thank you so much to By Escher Carr for this suggestion. So before we get into the advice, let's actually read the full comment from this viewer so that we know exactly how to help them specifically, and hopefully this also applies to you because I feel like this is a pretty universal feeling. Could you make your next video about how to force so many words out in such a short amount of time? Even though I have an outline, I struggle to write specific scenes and dialogue specifically. Like, okay, these two people meet, but what are they talking about after the first few conversations? Like, plot outline might say they spend time working together on something and are connecting, but what is making them connect? I start overthinking these things and it hampers my speedy writing. And even outline-wise, I tend to branch out to different plot ideas, then struggle to decide on which one to go for, and then slow down in my writing because I don't want to make myself decide. Let's face it, guys, making decisions as a writer is hard, and the only way we can really do everything we want to do is if we just do things a little bit faster, but you don't want to sacrifice the quality of what you're doing by writing faster, but not as well. But that's really, I think, my first piece of advice for this type of trouble that we all face. It's that we have so many books we want to write, we have so many things that we want to do, but that requires us actually completing projects. We might struggle with that because we have too many ideas or because we just don't have enough time to write. So we want to write faster, we want to write more often, but what if writing faster hampers our ability to write effectively? That is a question that we get a lot too. So I think the first thing you have to decide when you're looking to write faster is, do you write faster well or not? And if you don't write faster and clean draft at the same time, do you have the time to actually dedicate to editing your fast writing? There's no point in going through all of these tips I'm about to give you if you're like, hey, I want to write faster because I want to write more books, but then you don't actually have the time necessary to edit them, or you don't have the ability or skill to edit them effectively. I only recommend fast drafting for people who actually either prefer the editing stage or they are my rare unicorn case where I can fast draft but also write clean. And that's kind of the tips that I'm going to be giving you today, is how to write faster but then maintain your quality of writing at the same exact time. This is, again, not going to be something that everyone can accomplish, but if you even do a quarter of these things, or if you just improve in certain ways, you can eventually speed up your writing while maintaining quality as you go. Or you might decide, hey, I actually like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, and I like fast drafting because I prefer editing more to drafting. Other people prefer to go and write slower but then have less to edit later. You're also going to face more roadblocks if you're a pantser versus if you're an outliner. There are tons of people who will go and draft an entire novel, throwing shit at the wall the entire time, pantsing their asses off, but then they have to spend a long time either in the editing or just completely rewriting. So decide what path you feel like is best for you, or even try out different pathways. You might try one book, hey, I want to fast draft this and then see what if I like editing better. Oh, I actually really hate editing, I would rather clean draft first. You're only going to know which path is best for you based off of you actually experiencing it, which means writing the books and actually deciding to stick to a story, which I know can be so hard for so many of us. But one way to kind of get unstuck if you're feeling like, hey, I really have to hit deadline, I really need to get this project done, how can I kind of speed things along, is just simply changing the way that you're writing. This might be changing location from a desk to in your bed with your iPad. I know this is something that I've been experiencing recently because it is currently 100 degrees. So if my face starts melting, that's why, especially because I'm using natural light because all of my stuff is packed up over here in the corner, because yes, we're moving, guys. I have to get the natural light from outside and it is very hot. So what I found is that I'm not writing as much, and I haven't written for a while because I'm getting overheated down at my desk, and I only have like a tiny fan back here behind me for help. So I spend most of my day here either filming or editing videos, things that I can't do in bed, and then when I actually want to write, I'll go back upstairs to the AC and I'll write in bed on my iPad instead. Or you might even figure out that text-to-speech works better for you when you're fast drafting. Or even if you just get stuck. So either change location, figure out maybe what is making you uncomfortable in your current situation, if it's something physically around you that's preventing you from writing faster. Or if you feel like, okay, I've written as many words as I can today, I can't look at a screen anymore, maybe just close your eyes and speak the words out loud using speech to text. It might just be a simple trick like that to trick your brain into feeling like you haven't already written for the day. And of course, I would be remiss to say it's all about practice, 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 but guess what? We can only practice if we actually have the time to practice. And not all of us do. Not all of us can dedicate hours upon hours to writing and to make ourselves write faster. I'm going to just preface this in the beginning that I am easily able to write 3K, 10K words a day, only because was, one, prior to this, even when I did have a day job, now that I've been laid off, my schedule is even more quote unquote open, but again, I'm moving, so it's not even the case right now. But I was working from home predominantly. I did not write on the very few days that I actually had to go into the office, but all of my travel time got cut. I was not able to accomplish 3K words a day when I was actually going to the office 2 days, even 2 days a week, and I was working hybrid. It only was my word count exponentially exploded as soon as I was full-time remote, only going into the office maybe one day, like a month. And on that one day that I was going to the office, I did not write. Like, I am amazed and just blown away by people who make commutes like what I did, where I was driving 4 hours a day to get back and forth from the office and then still managing to write, because my body shot after that. So don't compare yourself to word counts that I or anyone else does when you have completely different living situations, and don't compare the amount of practice that I've had for writing and writing quickly and clean drafting at the same time, because I've been writing since I was in the 6th grade, like every single day, 4 years. I only barely started taking days off from writing in college. My entire high school and middle school experience, I was writing every single day, weekends included, school days, no days off, no breaks. Do not compare yourself to other people when you don't have that experience as well. And even if you do, you might have different life experiences. So what is quick for you might not be quick for someone else. Putting it out there. Next is, personally, in my case, in my scenario, I do not type like a normal person. I discovered only a couple years ago that I type very weird. I type very strange, but it's what's comfortable for me because I was never taught in school how to properly type on a keyboard. I don't know if other people were in my class or they're not. I just happened to miss it, but I've been typing again on a computer since like the 6th grade, and no one ever taught me the proper way to type. People have tried to show me now, and it is so uncomfortable to me that it makes me slow down. It's actually one of the reasons that I no longer get like acrylic nails, because it tends to slow me down with writing, and I just can't afford that in my current life, right? So anything that kind of prohibits or makes it uncomfortable for you to write, you might want to just put it to the side. So if you're like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to type, this is what I was taught in school, maybe try a different way to actually type that makes it more comfortable for you. The easier you can make it on yourself to be comfy at your desk or on your iPad or wherever you are that you're typing, the more productive you're going to eventually be. So for me, I've got my little like wrist pad. I've also got a mouse pad, and the specific keyboard I got as well is a very specific type of keyboard that I had to hunt for a while. Why? Because I wanted it to have that clicky clacky kind of feeling, but I also didn't want it to be so big of a desktop one that it was, you know, it had all the arrows on the side, it had all those extra keys. I wanted one that was shorter so that I could reach the keys easier. I wanted it to have the clicky clacky motion because it just, I'm not as big of a fan of writing on something like a Mac keyboard, even though I do write on my iPad occasionally. I've gotten a little bit more used to that, but I'm not as quick with it. This has been my preferred keyboard 4 years now. I am used to it. And if I ever get another one, it's gonna have to be basically just a duplicate of this, or it's going to, again, slow me down. This means you might have to literally walk into a Best Buy and try out some keyboards that maybe are on displays, connected to some computers, different things like that, so you can discover what is the most comfortable way for you to type. And don't focus again on the normalities of other people. This is how you're supposed to do anything. The rules are fake. Next is, this person specifically was talking about how, hey, I get stuck. Hey, I might have an outline, but then I still feel like I don't know what happens next. And this is where I find that my outlines before my new method of outlining, which if you guys want a whole video on that, let me know. My new method of outlining includes detailing what specific conversations are going to be about. I would used to, like, before just say, hey, these guys have a bonding moment, and I would not figure out what that bonding moment was until I was writing that scene, and then I would just pants my way through it. And that wasn't very effective for me, because to be able to write as quickly as I do, I have to imagine the scene in my head as much as possible. That way I'm kind of just writing out what I see. And I know for people who don't visually see stuff in their head, like some other people, like they literally, this is a foreign concept to me, but I've heard recently that there's some people when they daydream and stuff, they don't actually have pictures in their head. They don't really do that daydreaming kind of thing. So if this is you, this is gonna be a little bit harder for you. But for those of us who do daydream and visualize things in their head like a movie, you basically then just write as if you're documenting what you're seeing in your head. You're writing the scene as it's unfolding behind your eyes and in your brain. And I find that's the easiest way to do it, is when you're daydreaming, you're thinking about it. I typically think about, before I go to bed, the next scene that I'm writing for the next day, and I will play it out for as long as I can until I fall asleep, and then I will wake up most likely still thinking about it, and then by the time I sit down on my keyboard, I have an entire scene thought out of. Obviously, if you are writing very quickly, you're going to eventually catch up to the point where your daydreams kind of like ran out, and that's usually where I find I get stuck, when I haven't daydreamed or thought about something enough. This is when you have to turn to the next point. That next point being, hey, let me go and consume media, refill the well, take some time off. That's probably one of the best things that you can do in terms of needing more fuel to daydream about. Sometimes it'll literally just be a matter of, hey, I know they're supposed to have a bonding scene, but I don't know what kind of feeling I want them to be evoking in this scene. I know I want them to have some sort of deep connection, but I don't know how to get that across on the page right now. I don't know what they should talk about. Well, let's say that you watch one of your favorite shows where, hey, I know there was an episode in this TV show where I really felt for the characters and I felt like they really genuinely loved each other. Let me watch some love confession scenes, and maybe I want to go take that, but then remove their ability to say I love you and make them still feel that kind of connection. That's how I personally kind of refuel the well, is I imagine, okay, what if this scene was in the parameters of my book? What if this feeling was in a scene in my book? What if my book took on some of the characteristics of this episode of a TV show? And if I'm feeling like a scene is kind of lacking in terms of depth or emotion, this is typically what I do. That's also typically where I find that I'm struggling with the most scenes and I can't get the words down, is either because I haven't imagined it enough, I don't have enough inspiration for it, or a combo of those two things. So yeah, when you're especially having a conversation between characters, what do they talk about is deeper than just they have to mention X, Y, and Z, though I do recommend you do that. I recommend that when you're doing your outline, or if you're kind of looking at your scene and you're kind of pantsing it and you have to figure out, okay, what are they talking about this conversation, and you only know that they're supposed to have a bonding scene, or they're supposed to realize this thing, or this information needs to get divulged, you need to write that down on the side. Hey, they need to actually hit these beats in their conversation, but you're like, okay, how do they get from X, Y to Z? You also need to think about not only them getting from X, Y to Z, but the emotional feeling that the scene is supposed to provoke within them, how they're emotionally supposed to go on a journey with each revelation in the conversation, and also the purpose of the conversation in general. Sometimes you might find that, hey, this scene has been plaguing me for weeks. I cannot write it. I don't know what's wrong with it. Sometimes that literally just means that it's a conversation or a scene that maybe you can just summarize, like, hey, a week passed and this is what happened. A lot of times people are going to tell you not to summarize things or do big time jumps like that in the middle of your book, but sometimes it might just be necessary for the story. And again, if you're just doing your first draft, you might be able to fix this later, or the inspiration might come to you later, which is why I also recommend for your next point here, skip the scene. If you're really struggling with it, I know as a chronological drafter myself that it's very hard to do this for some people, but sometimes it might just be necessary to just skip what you're working on, just put a little summary of, hey, during our road trip, we spoke about this, and now I feel this way about this person. It might be a really important scene that you need to go back in and deal with later, or it might end up being like, hey, actually no reader actually minded that they didn't see this scene. No one really cares, but it was necessary to bring up. For example, in my upcoming debut, which actually I think by the time you guys are seeing this video, it will be out, Between the Shadows and the Dawn, there is specifically a dynamic between two characters, the main character Adelaide and another side character Zareen, who at the very beginning really didn't trust each other. But I didn't really like the trope of two women pitted against each other and having just catty business between each other and all of this tension, unless it was sexual tension. Say that for a different book. But I didn't really like having that trope of two female characters, two of the only female characters we really see, having this kind of tension between one another. So instead, I just barely mentioned that they have had this tension going on. You can understand where it comes from based off of the first scene that they have together, but I didn't want to draw it out until they kind of came to a conclusion with one another that, hey, can we just start over again? I did sprinkle in enough of it for the reader to understand that there was tension happening off scene between the characters, but I didn't want to dive into it too much. Because again, I did not want to fall into that type of trope, but for these characters, it makes sense why they wouldn't be getting along or why they mistrust each other at first. And so far, I have, knock on wood, had no reader tell me that, hey, I really wish I had seen more of the tension between them. I only had it in one of my earlier drafts where they were like, hey, I didn't realize they actually had tension. So I added a little bit more of it to that initial scene, and I haven't gotten a comment since that said, oh, I wish I had more of them being catty to each other. People are really tired of that, and I didn't want to give into that trope. So I just kind of skipped it, and I mostly, as well, during those scenes when those things would happen, I had it from the male main character's point of view, so I wasn't actively having the reader be a participant in the cattiness. Instead, it was filtered through the other POV, which allowed me to kind of skip around some of those scenes, which is a little trick that I happen to be able to do because I'm writing either multi-POV or dual POV. And sometimes you might find out that that's actually what your book needs. You might just need to add a new perspective into the book if you're feeling stuck in one perspective. You might eventually need to change it or rewrite it, but that's something you can do as well to get yourself unstuck. Sometimes certain scenes just feel like they're a little bit better or easier to write when they're from a different character's point of view. Next, of course, is sprints. This will show you how fast you can actually write within, let's say, 30 minutes. I like doing 30 minutes because if I do a little bit longer, I feel like 45 minutes to an hour is when I start to run out of steam, versus 30 minutes makes me feel like, oh, I know exactly what I'm gonna write yet. Crap, why did it have to end so soon? And then I'll want to do another 30-minute sprint. So I'll feel like, okay, I can actually write for an hour if I do 2 30-minute sprints, versus writing for an entire hour in one sitting feels a little bit daunting. Even though I know I can do it and I've done it many a times, just the sound of it in my head, it gets me in the head. So I recommend figuring out, looking at your sprint, okay, I've done a week worth of sprints every day, 30 minutes. What is my average word count that I can get? And then every time you start doing those sprints, try to go for a little bit more. Okay, I can normally get 1,000 words in 30 minutes. Let me see if I can get to 1,200. Okay, let me see if I can get to 1,500. And just keep competing with yourself to see where your actual max out capacity is. Then you're actually knowing, okay, am I actually writing fast or not? Because how can you tell if you're writing faster if you don't have a metric to base it off of? Next is accountability buddies. This is one of my little cheat codes with writing and just author stuff in general, is to have critique partners, accountability buddies, etc. People who are going to say, hey, did you write today? Hey, how much did you write? And if you're actually competing with them, that might help you as well. Like, hey, who can get the most word count today? If you lose, you have to send me a gift card for Barnes & Noble. Obviously, times are tough. Don't recommend financial competitions as much, unless of course you can swing those, but it might be, hey, if you don't meet your word count, you have to go and beta read a chapter of my book. Not that beta reading someone's book should be a punishment, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. Next, of course, is that nothing is set in stone. You can write something and delete it. I think this is one of the most powerful things to get you to write more often, more regularly, and more words at a time, is that you can delete everything later. And again, the rules are fake. You don't have to keep anything that you write. If you're like, hey, I know this scene is not going to work later on, and just write it anyways. Just be like, hey, well, this is an experiment. I just want to see what I can do with the scene. There was a scene that I wrote that I actually really didn't end up liking when I first wrote it, and then I forgot it was even in there. I intended to delete it before I sent it to betas, and then the betas ended up actually really loving it. They said that it was really important for the plot, and I was like, I don't know what you mean by that, and I ended up rereading it and going, oh, I actually really like this scene, and I see what they mean by it being important for the plot. It's actually a scene, and again, Between the Shadows and the Dawn, my debut, go check it out. You can get paperback and ebook right now. Hardcovers and special editions coming soon. But they thought, hey, this is actually really important because this scene specifically was the main character Adelaide dealing with a knight for the first time on page. We had kind of heard about them. We knew that the love interest was a former knight and that what Adelaide is had beef with them, but we never really saw the dynamic of her around the knights other than the love interest who had already left that order. So having a scene where you can see the tension between them automatically just because of the factions that they're a part of ended up being really integral for people to understand the stakes and why these specific types of people and groups of people would not be getting along. And then last but not least, of course, is to have fun and remember that everyone's on a different journey. You might go, hey, I really wish that I could keep up with Jenna's 3K word a day goal she set for herself. That might not be possible for you. That was only possible as a goal for me to have and already fail at, mind you, simply because of my life circumstances when I made that goal. I was working completely remote, only one day a freaking month in office. It was completely possible for me to get 1,000K words on my lunch break because I was already sitting at this desk. I already would have my Word doc open in the background of my work. And you know what? As soon as my life circumstances changed because I lost my job and now I need to move because I can't afford where I live anymore because I lost both of my jobs in the last 6 months actually, I don't have the time to write right now. I barely have the time to try and get videos out to you guys because I've got boxes behind me and we're moving my entire life in a matter of days as I'm filming this video. So 3K words a day just sometimes isn't possible. If you're feeling bad because of someone else's numbers, never allow yourself to do that. What you're able to accomplish when you know that you're actively trying should never be held up in comparison to someone else as, hey, why can't I be like them? Why can't I accomplish the same things as them? Everyone has different life experiences. Everyone has an amount of experience, period, in writing, in reading, etc. Whatever goalpost you want to put there that makes their life experience and the abilities that they have completely different from yours. So don't kick yourself just because you can't meet a certain arbitrary word count. What does it matter if I get 3K words a day but they end up being garbage and I have to delete them later, but you get 1,000 words a day and those are all words that you're going to end up keeping? Because yes, I can clean draft and yes, I can write very fast and I can get 3K words a day because of my life circumstances, but do not put that up as a mirror to compare yourself to, because that is not the intention ever with my content. And I'm not saying that this person was maybe feeling this way or not, but just in case you are, just in case you're feeling like you're working too slow, just because you feel like maybe you're behind, None of that matters at the end. Again, the rules are all fake. We are here for joy. We are here because we love reading and we love writing and we love doing creative things. And if you're feeling a little bit behind, that is A-okay, and it's okay to feel your feelings, but never allow that to take the joy out. Never allow that to make you write things that you're not happy with. If you're like, hey, I'm stuck on this scene, I'm not happy with what I'm writing, take a step away. There is no point or reason, especially if you're doing self-publishing and all of your deadlines are created by yourself, to have to try to force a story out just to meet some sort of arbitrary deadline that you made. And if you're doing traditional publishing and you're like, hey, I really literally, because of a contract, need to make certain word count goals, then of course that's a little bit more pressure. If you have specific events that you need to go and actually have your book at, if you're doing self-publishing, they're like, hey, I really need to make that goal, then of course, yes, those are outlying situations. But what's the point of publishing all of these books if you're not happy with what you created? Like, I know for me, I have pushed out this book now that I'm very, very happy with, and I put so much time in the actual creation of the book that I did absolutely no marketing for it. So I'm not feeling like very confident in the numbers this book is going to do right out of the gate, but I went into it knowing that I'm doing self-publishing, and I went into it knowing that I can always find my ideal readership later, but for right now, I just need to get the book out there. I need to have a book in my hand, and there's specific events I'm going to be at that literally made it so I had to publish the book before the event, such as Once Upon a Con, such as Fall Into Books Fest. I'm going to be at both of those in August and September respectively, so I knew I needed to have a book out in advance of those events. But what I didn't do was rush the story. Yes, I rushed the marketing, and yes, it sucks that I poured all of my heart and my soul into the story, and I probably will not have as much marketing as I wanted to do for it. That does indeed suck, but I would rather push out a book that I'm very happy with the product of and find the ideal readership later than push out something I'm unhappy with just to meet some sort of arbitrary goal. And that goes for my 185 Insane Challenge. If you guys haven't seen that yet, I'll link the videos and everything for it above and below, where I'm trying to publish multiple books in the next 5 months now. That does not mean I'm going to publish something that I'm not happy with. That does not mean that I'm going to force myself to write things that I'm not happy with, that I'm not being full of joy with. And I think that's the number one thing you can do when you're trying to write more, if you're trying to get more words down, is to find the joy in everything you're doing. Find the joy in the scene, the thing that you can't wait to write about. And if it's not this specific scene, but you know that it's integral for the plot and you can't jump forward and you can't take any more time off and you're on contract, then try to find the joy in the next scene. Try to find the joy in the story again. Revitalize yourself by consuming previous chapters, your favorite lines, just maybe commissioning some fan art, whatever it is to spark joy within you. I usually find that combined with daydreaming and combined with finding the joy in my story, I can usually push past most roadblocks when it comes to writing, especially if I have a really good outline on my side. But that's it for me today for this video, so I hope this helped you. What is your average word count goal you get in 30 minutes? I'm really curious about this. I typically end up getting about 1K, so let me know down below what your current word count is looking like as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one, so remember to subscribe and bye!